Kristin Stewart playing Princess Diana, AMC's plan for reopening, also an exclusive, real-time exclusive on B&B Theaters' plan for reopening, and lastly, we are going to be talking about the Oscars pushing back their release dates. Let's get to talking about it. All right, guys, welcome to ReelTime News, where we give you all the updated news on a weekly basis. I started a long time ago doing ReelTime News on a video version, so now I've decided to resurrect it, and we're going to do it for you guys weekly on Saturdays, so we can keep you guys up to date on all the biggest movie news. So to start us off here, I'm here joined by Casey McKinney. How are you doing, sir?
Not too bad. We're getting some movie news. I like it.
I know.
Been pretty. I don't want to say slow, but we haven't had a lot, so it's nice to have some news and some stuff to talk about.
It is starting to pick up, though, because things are...
Great time to resurrect it.
Oh, yeah. I'm really excited because now things are slowly going to start opening, which we will talk about here in a minute. I think the movie news is really going to start coming out, more often than not. But before we get off to the movie news, I just want to give a condolences to the passing of Sir Ian Holm. If you guys don't know, he is most notably played Bilbo Baggins in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. He's very much a darling of the nerd community, but he also just had a lot of great performances in his previous work, even before Lord of the Rings. Most notably, he got nominated for his only Oscar nominations for Chariot on Fire, and then also he made after he left theater, he made his triumphant debut in Alien, which was a terrific performance as well. We were really saddened to see him go. He passed away at the age of 88. I give my condolences out to the family, and he will always be remembered for Lord of the Rings, but he has a fantastic film repertoire, and we are saddened to see him go.
Absolutely.
But now we talked about that one. We got that part in there. I really wanted to give tribute to Ian Holm, not Holmes. But let's start off here right off the top. I am excited to start talking about this movie news. To start us off here, according to Variety, AMC has a new plan for their opening of their theater.
Now, are you referencing the right plan? They've changed their plan.
They have changed their plan. We will talk about that as well. But here at ReelTime, we are an apolitical. We talk about just the news. We're talking about the movies. We're talking about the plans. And so that's just one thing to have of note. But the most notable thing to talk about here is according to Variety, the company is expected to resume operations in 450 of their 600 locations starting on July 15th. And they will be, by the time Mulan comes out July 24th and Tenet July 31st, they are hoping and expecting to have all their venues open in time. So on that, let's see. Other thing to have of note is their plans for reopening and what they're doing as far as sanitation is concerned. One of the things they have of note is that they are trying to keep the social distancing thing in place due to the pandemic. They will also be cleaning their theaters after every single show with the CDC approved cleaner, and having hand sanitizing stations in every single theater. So, Casey, you heard about their plan for reopening. Those are kind of the big bullet points. We'll get more into the details as we go along. But what are your thoughts on their plans of reopening? They've
got some really interesting stuff in there that I read. As a guy who worked for Carmike/AMC for a very long time, I don't anymore. I can sort of understand how a lot of these plans are going into action and all of that. I like they put in one of their bullet points was that they're doing cashless transactions only at the concession stand where there's food. They're trying to limit that. So if you have cash, you have to go to the box office and buy a gift card. And then
they'll also
gift card at it's a little tedious, but I get it, and it totally makes sense. My question was, I thought AMC closed a lot of their box offices a long time ago. So
yeah, I thought so too.
It's interesting to see them have to resurrect those to make it work. But for the most part, they are doing and saying the right things to get people hopefully to come back and give them money and see movies there. All they can really do is put the ball in the public's court and hope that it plays out in some way, shape, or form in their favor.
Yeah. Another good thing to know is they're upgrading their ventilation systems so where they're not circulating the air as much. So hopefully the air will actually go outwards, so that if somebody happens to go to the theater and they do have coronavirus and they are not wearing a mask, then that their new filtration system, they're hoping in theory, will force the air to be recycled, not inside the theater, but kind of recycling through the system. So now what we were talking about earlier was they changed one of their policies. Initially, they were not requiring people to wear masks. They were just encouraging it. But then after a big backlash online, they decided to change that. And then their people are now required to wear masks. We're not going to get into politics of that. I found it very interesting that they still changed their way of thinking. I personally think it's a good idea. I will say, logically speaking, while it's a good idea to have people wear masks, I'm just thinking in a funny way, how are people going to eat their popcorn and drinks?
Yeah, and you say that you think of that in a funny way, but I guarantee you that was part of the conversation at a board meeting where they're trying to figure out what they are and aren't going to. If they're going to tell you straightforward, they're going to require you to do this.
Yep. Then
maybe that in some way, shape, or form hinders their concession sales. And concession sales are where they make their money. They're not making money off of you coming in and buying the tickets. So, a lot of these, and that's why you see a lot of these theaters that aren't gung-ho to get moving, because, even if people are willing to come in, how many of them are willing to visit our concession stand? And if they're not, we're just basically servicing the public as a middleman and not making money here. Yeah. So it's an interesting thing.
Another interesting thing to know, because as I was reading the article, I should have thought about this after I read it, but while I was reading it, I was wondering, well, what are they going to do about capacity? Apparently, I was looking, as the article read, they're starting off at 30% capacity only per theater, and as overtime goes on, they'll increase it every 10%, so 40, 50, and so on. So that begs the other big question is, will these movies such as Mulan and Tenet, there's not a lot of movies coming out. Those are like the big ones, and they'll probably have some older retro films to play in the meantime. But when these movies come out to help keep up with demand, I have a feeling we'll have for Mulan and Tenet, will they have to expand their each, we can have 6-7 theaters playing the same film? What do you think?
I think what it boils down to, because a lot of the movie houses now are, you see multiplex, you see, 8 screens, 12 screens, 20 screens. I think what you're going to see is the studios working out deals with theaters to where, we've got a local theater here that's a 20-plex. And at a certain point, why not put Mulan on 8 screens and Tenet on 8 screens, and then maybe have some old stuff running somewhere? Just so you can spread those showtimes out. You can have them starting frequently enough that you're not losing out. I mean, the guesstimate, the people behind Tenet came out and said that they expected to need 80% of theaters to reopen for them to make their budget back. They're working off of a huge budget.
Yeah.
And they're not going to get 80% of the theaters open, but that was 80% at full capacity. We're not going to get that either. So it's really tough. I know Nolan wants his film seen in the theater. I want to see his film.
Oh God, I do too.
So, I get it, but it's going to be real tough for them to make that budget back.
That is true. And that also begs the last question I have, because how it's big movies like Avengers Endgame or Star Wars The Force Awakens, when they came out, they had to even expand the time frame the theater was open to bring in more showtime. Do you think they'll do that? Since they're at such short capacity, do you think they will do that as well?
I mean, you're looking at a lot of these are going to be pre-sales, or they're going to push that heavily. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of businesses that are reopening are doing that. They're saying we want you to, we want you to buy your tickets in advance, or here's a window that you can come in. Others are trying to keep, capacity low. If they have the demand for it, sure. I mean, you're right. When AMC, I believe there were select theaters that when Endgame came out, they were open 24 hours for those first couple days, just running shows around the clock because the demand was. I am hesitant to say that's going to be the demand. Will I be there opening weekend for Tenet? Absolutely. Yeah. I'm fine with it. I am in the minority with that, though, I believe. I believe there are a lot of people that do not want to go spend time in a theater, and that's your prerogative, and that's that's fine. I'm not going to judge anyone for that. But, again, what does that do for the money made and for these businesses? If they reopen and crash and burn, that's a problem, too.
Yeah, and that's going to be an interesting thing to notice, too, is that people who are uncomfortable. Now, I think that's why maybe AMC changed their rules to require masks, because that there is a big group of people who feel like it's needed. Now there is a group of people who feel like, you know, they shouldn't have to wear it. They don't want to, and that's their choice. But I think the AMC wanted to do it just to kind of be on the safer side, so that hopefully they will again bring more people in the theater. But then I have also seen on some of the especially like this one here at Variety, when I saw it on Facebook, I looked at some of the comments on Facebook, and there was a group of people who were saying because of this they're not going to go to the theater. So it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's a very tough time right now. But either way, I mean, where I'm at in my small hometown, since B&B Theaters is my sponsor, I'm able to, now that I'm not working, I'm able to go hopefully see it early enough to where I'll be able to miss out on the crowd, so I can just kind of have the theater to myself, or with them, or I don't know how it's going to work out. I'll have to talk that over with them as time gets closer. But that's just the thing, though, that not a lot of people have that kind of hookup, so they have to go in with the crowds to make it all work out. So who knows how it's going to work out? I mean, it's all kind of, either way, everyone's kind of at the seat of their pants. So that's the best we can all hope for. So we will see, and I'm really curious to see those box office numbers, though. I really am curious.
Yeah, it's gonna be telling, I think, on where we're going for the, not just this, you know, first couple big releases that we have here with Mulan and Tenet. I honestly still wouldn't be surprised if Mulan changes. Disney's said before that they don't want to be that first movie that opens the box office. I don't think Mulan is the movie that it needs to open the box office. I don't think a lot of people are bringing their kids to the theater.
No.
You know, I think that is a little bit of a different thing. But at that point in time, we'll assess. I think that Tenet will end up being what opens it up. I think Disney still will end up jumping Mulan, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Definitely. So now moving on, ReelTime actually has its own exclusive, because I was looking online to see if there was any news on B&B Theaters' opening and what their plans are. Now, if a lot of you don't know, if you're in the East Coast or West Coast, B&B Theaters is mostly a Midwest theater chain. They have theaters in Florida, South Carolina, Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Iowa, and a few other places of note. But that's really it. And, you know, and hopefully they'll be able to expand more as they get bigger and bigger. But since they are my sponsor, I reached out to my manager, the manager at my theater, who then reached out to their director of public relations, and he got a hold of me, and I was able to ask him a few questions regarding their opening. In regards to what they're planning to do, director's name is, Paul Farnsworth. He is the director of public relations at B&B Theaters, and he said the following. B&B Theaters is reopening in dozens of locations today, which was June 19th, yesterday. So they are actually open right now, primarily in large markets in Missouri, Kansas, and Iowa. Most notably in Iowa, he said in Ankeny, that their theater is open in Ankeny.
Sure is. Can confirm.
Yep. We are he says, he also added on saying that we are heartened by the sellout crowds in our two drive-in locations at Moberly and Independence, Missouri, which seem to indicate to us that under the right circumstances, folks are ready to return to the cinemas. And I liked how he phrased that. I actually do perfectly agree with him.
Yes.
I also asked him, with everything reopening, what safety measures they will be taking due to the pandemic. He also added in saying that we have implemented a number of new protocols and procedures to ensure our guests are returning to the atmospheres that we are accommodating and comfortable. We are increasing our on-staff employees to have dedicated cleaners during all hours of operations, attending exclusively to high-contact surfaces and high-traffic areas. He added on, the employees will have temperatures taken prior to clocking in and will be required to wear face masks or face shields. We have installed plexiglass dividers at each point of sale and will be alternating selling stations. That's very interesting to think about, that they won't have everyone just have lines. They will be alternating one, so maybe they can clean the area. Social distancing will be enforced in all public spaces, including our auditoriums. Occupied seats will be sterilized with CDC-approved spray between every showtime, and so much more. So that's one of the big selling points for me. I thought was very interesting. And the last question I did ask him is, now that they're open now, what are they going to do in the meantime until Mulan and Tenet release? They said, he added on saying, since Hollywood is effectively closed, there's no new titles hitting to the end of July. We are excited to be working with studio partners to bring some truly wonderful older titles back to theaters, including such films as School of Rock, Goonies, Knives Out, Just Mercy, The Dark Knight, Storks, Harry Potter, Anchorman, and so much more.
Yeah.
He did note that these titles will change week to week. So if you're in one of these areas at B&B Theaters and you love going to their theaters, I would highly suggest you go online and check and see if your theater's open and what they're playing if you want to go back now. So
yeah, they're doing a great job. A lot of movie studios are doing a great job with offering up those back catalogs at a really low rate for the theaters to sort of, we're in this together as a, theater community and the studios trying to get this done. I haven't had any conversation with the bookers that we work with at my theater. But from everything I've gathered reading online, for the most part, they are playing very nice with just trying to test the waters, getting these older movies that'll draw a crowd, hopefully, out to these theaters. That list that you just rattled off there, very good list. Handful of those I wouldn't mind going back and checking out, given the opportunity, So, yeah, absolutely. I think they're doing it right.
Yeah, I think so too, and I'm really happy that he was able to give me some good details. I've liked the idea of doing alternate stations so they have time to clean the stations. I think that's very good to know.
Yeah,
the last question I asked him now, given that they still have limited theaters open, I asked him in my last question, will all their theater chains be open in time for Mulan and Tenet? All he said was, yes, we plan. What was his exact quote here? Let me pull it up. We will absolutely open those titles when they release. So that would indicate to me that they are planning to have all of their theaters open by the time Mulan comes out and, of course, Tenet. So that's also a good thing. So that it goes back to the question that goes back to with what we were talking about with AMC. This will help the box office. If more theaters are open now, I looked online. I didn't quite see anything with Regal's plan to reopening.
No, they haven't been very public with their plans or said anything publicly yet.
So, but given all this, now we don't want to compare and contrast AMC to B&B Theaters, but what do you, with both of these theaters, do you think they're both on the right track and taking the proper steps? Also, not just with protocols, but also the films that they're choosing to get people back in the theaters. Because if I remember right, AMC even has some, when they open July 15th, they're going to have some older films to kind of get people slowly back in the theaters.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain point, you have to sort of know your market. Each theater is probably going to differ. I would be shooting for different titles being here than I would being somewhere else, perhaps. But as long as and those theater managers know their demographic. So what's going to do the best here and try to maybe run some of those. And like I said, you're just testing the waters. Everything that the both of them have said sound great. Like I said, I would be there, with a movie release this weekend, given the opportunity. I'm not speaking for everyone, but no. I have every intention of seeing Tenet as soon as it comes out. If as long as I have the ability to, and there are a handful of theaters here who say they're going to be ready for that. So, we'll believe it when I've got ticket in hand and walking into an auditorium. But for now, all I can do is take them at their word. I like everything that they're saying and what they plan to do. As long as they carry through with that, absolutely.
So I just thought of something funny. You know how we were talking about how if people are going to have to wear masks with AMC, I didn't quite get an answer on what they're going to do with masks with B&B Theaters. I'll try and see if I can follow up on that one, maybe for next week's news. But with AMC, I was just thinking, you've seen some of those videos of the people wearing the diaper wipies, wipies thing, and they just lift it up and just.
No, I think the correct statement and I think a lot of these theater chains will learn from AMC is, making one statement and then going back on it and changing their mind. I think there's a compromise in there. I think requiring them in common areas when you're in the lobby, if you're in the bathroom, basically if you're not sitting in your seat where you in theory are going to be separated, you have to have a mask on. And that makes the most sense to me. It takes care of that. How am I going to eat my popcorn and drink my drink? Because without those things, theaters aren't opening.
No,
there's no point for them to do that. There's no win for them unless the studios are going to cut them in on the money, and they're not doing that because we already talked about how much money Tenet needs to make to be viable. So, we'll see how it boils out and how these are enforced and what the other companies decide they want to do, but. At this point, I haven't seen anything overly discouraging.
Yeah, me neither. And my theater here won't be opening. I talked to the manager here at my theater. We probably won't be opening until mid-July before Mulan. So it kind of stinks, but hey, I got plenty of the movies to talk about and more work to do. So moving on from that, the more work here was very interesting note. The next segment we have here is Kristin Stewart is playing Princess Diana in Pablo Lauren's Spencer. Now, if you don't know who Pablo Lauren, he directed Jackie. And according to Deadline, like I said, she will be playing them, and it will be focused around the Christmas time of her final Christmas holidays, right before she passed away, and also be focusing on her figuring out that she was. Sorry, I gotta burp, and it's not coming out. I'm really apologize for that. But no, it was also takes place at a time when she was with Prince Charles and she figured out it wasn't working. And so she was trying to distance herself from becoming the new queen. So Kristin Stewart playing Princess Diana. What are your thoughts on that? What do you think? Do you think she'll be able to play? Because I believe Princess Diana was a very charismatic woman, and nothing against Kristin Stewart. She has done some great work since Twilight, but is this the right role for her?
I don't know if this is the right role for her. I think there's a lot of, you put the two pictures side by side and there's some similarities there.
Yeah.
I can see it. And I think there's a lot of that there, and they're sort of hoping that they can make it work. I like Kristin Stewart. I don't know. She takes a lot of shit from people for some of the roles. I mean, Twilight. I think you hit the nail right on the head, though, is she's not overly charismatic. In a lot of the roles that she's been very good in, she's sort of been able to distance and play, standoffish. And I don't know that that's what this role is. So it's a bit of a head scratcher. But we'll see.
We'll see. We could very well be, we could be wrong, and she's ended up going to be great in it. And given the fact of the subject matter, maybe they did choose her because she is great at dramatic acting. Not necessarily charismatic, being charismatic and uppity, but she is able to really bring out a good role with her dramatic acting. So maybe given the subject matter, they're going to more focus on that, because Jackie was very dark. I mean, it was very dark as far as the subject matter goes, and as far as the acting goes, a very somber moment right after JFK was killed.
Real slow.
Yeah, so maybe this is kind of on that same wavelength. So maybe that's why he picked her. I don't know. He must have saw something where giving what he's trying to do, it will work. That's my hope, because I really like Jackie. I thought did she win her Academy Award for that, or did she get? No, she didn't. She did not win the Academy Award. So I feel like she should have won. I feel like she was the best actress of that day when she was playing Jackie Kennedy. But I digress on that one. So other than that, I mean, I did see, as of note, the person who is writing the screenplay is Stephen Knight, which is the most notable he wrote was Locke, which kind of really excites me to the fact that he's writing the screenplay. I mean, wouldn't you agree?
Kids, go watch Locke.
Oh God, yeah.
Just go watch. If you haven't seen it, go watch. It's so good. So good. Love me some Locke.
That's probably the most notable film I think he's done. He's done some other ones, Peaky Blinders. I haven't seen that one. Eastern Promises and 100-Foot Journey. I haven't seen either one of those three. I may have to just to kind of get
I've seen the 100-Foot Journey. It was they're good. He's doing good work. I'm interested. We'll see.
Yeah. So I mean, other than that, I can't say much more about this. I'm glad to see she is still getting she's getting work. She does deserve to have more stuff out there, because she was in a movie last year that wasn't the greatest. So hopefully this will kind of get her into the Oscar discussion at least. So we will see. And now finally, we're moving on to our last but not least segment here. We are talking about the 2021 Oscars. According to Variety, they are pushing back their release date by 2 months. According to them, the Academy Awards of Motion Pictures announced on Monday that they're postponing their date of the show, the Academy Awards ceremony, on October 25th, 2021, just right before my birthday. That's going to be another good birthday for me. And they also went on to note that what are they going to do with their qualifying release dates, their submission deadlines, and so forth. They went on to say that the qualifying release dates are between January 1st, 2020 and February 28th, 2021. Specific categories such as animated features, documentary features, documentary shorts, international films, short, animated and live action shorts will be December 1st, 2021 for submission. So they have to submit their film by then. And then finally, lastly, the rest of the general categories will be January 15th, 2021. Given all of this information, I kind of regurgitated that at you, Casey. What are your thoughts on all this information?
I mean, I'm not surprised, and it makes sense. I get it. You know, we've seen them be kind of proactive even before this with bumping the theater requirement until further notice. The until further notice thing is interesting to me. We'll see how that pans out, you know, because at any point in time they could go, okay, well, this is your further notice, you know, once theaters reopen, and even at the end of this, take that away. I'm concerned. Well, I don't want to say concerned, but to push that window out and make it that large, we have had some good releases this year, and you know we're looking at a year from when they were released, from right before this started. That, you know, I wouldn't be surprised to see some of these things maybe get a re-release. These are the kind of movies that I would like to see. I mean, the problem is it's not going to be your main your big theaters, your AMCs or whatever that are picking up movies like this. Is going to be your small independents, and those guys are really holding out on reopening until they feel really good about the situation and have their kind of movies available. But there was a large chunk of time there right after everything shut down that there are some good movies that did opt to just go straight to VOD, that I think those studios, especially if they want this shot at an Oscar, need to maybe play ball and say, hey, you know, do you guys want to run our movie here in July or August that came out in March? You know, something like Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always comes to mind. That you know, I do really feel like that movie is set up to be at least in some Oscar conversations, and it's just sort of gone now. And then you'll see some other studios take advantage of this particular change, and you know, if they think that it's a weak year and can maybe move their stuff up a little bit, you know, and sneak into this Oscar category, this particular Oscar race, you might see it. I don't know. It makes things really interesting to see what ends up getting in and qualifies and makes its way into the potential for nominations.
Yeah, and the other thing interesting to note is we were talking about earlier how, you know, would they have to re-release this thing in films? I forgot that earlier, before this news even broke, that the Academy Awards, I believe it was the governors, they noted that they are temporarily suspending that the film has to be in theaters in order to qualify for to be nominated. But it has to be on a, if I remember this says, let's see. They has to be on a VOD service that is also. They can also be where you pay for the service, but it has to be on some sort of streaming availability at the time that they're submitting their film. So now that says temporary suspending. Now I wonder if maybe things get better if they're going to relift that or not.
That's what I mean.
Because they're trying to keep things fair
for further notice.
Yeah, because they're trying to keep things fair for the films that had to come out on VOD,
especially the small ones. That's the problem. They don't have the ability or the money to sort of manipulate the system, and they didn't really have much of a choice. We were set for release the last week of March, and now, okay, well, we're just going to put it out. And now movies, you know, they're available out there, even on Prime. Some of these movies have made their way down that far that in March were a $20 rental that never saw the theatrical time and probably would have had a decent run in independent theaters.
That's true. Yeah, it probably definitely would. So I think, and now that I think about it, I think maybe temporarily suspending it means they're just doing it for this season. That's
the general consensus is that's going to go through this particular nominating season and then change next year or go back to some semblance of normal, though who knows? I mean, like I said, there's a world where theaters come back, no one shows up, and they don't, you know, reopen as many or don't do as well. We don't know. We still don't know what we're looking at for the future of movies.
That's very true. And so that's another thing I'm also thinking about is, sorry, if maybe after the reason why, now I'm just thinking hypothetically here and going conspiracy, because
absolutely.
At the time of the health officials saying it take anywhere from a year to 18 months to find a vaccine. So I'm wondering if maybe they're pushing it back, hoping that, you know, crossing their fingers that a vaccine would be available. And so they would, things would be hunky dory then. Because once the vaccine's out and everything, and the majority of people at least get a vaccine, things can go back to normal. They really
In
can.
theory.
It's just getting back to that. But like you said, that's the other big point is if people don't go to the theaters, and I guess the movie theaters as we know it will be over.
Well, it's the same with any business at this point. That's why I say if you can give your money to a local business, do it, because they're trying to stay afloat in these hard times. And I don't look at an AMC that way, but I mean you're looking at a potential of 6 to 9 months that they're shut down. It's tough to bounce back from.
And yeah, I'm thinking anecdotally right now, but it did give me some positive thought, like positive moving forward, that with Paul Farnsworth, the director for B&B Theaters, director for public relations, how he said that the 2 drive-in theaters just in Missouri alone were selling out.
Yeah, I mean the drive-in here close to me reopens this upcoming weekend. They're running Zootopia and The Greatest Showman. So I think he specifically got my daughter on the phone and was like, hey, what movies should we run? So we might be going to try and check that out this weekend because she loves those 2 movies. But it's like, yeah, no, that's the perfect model right now. Unfortunately, it's not a great theatrical make money for the theater model. So
yeah, but it just makes me wonder. It gives me some hope for the
people
future.
Want
positive.
Movies.
Yeah, people want to go to. It makes me think that people still want to go to the theater.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like it's still a much different vibe than just sitting in your home. It's a much different atmosphere and viewing experience than being in the theater. So going back to the Oscars, it makes me really glad that at least they're suspending those rules so that these films have a chance. But I also feel like they also did that because they were probably talking with Hollywood execs and were like, hey, we're going to be pushing our movie back to like January or February or something. So we still want that recognition kind of mentality. You know what I mean? So maybe they're also helping pander to the Hollywood execs, Hollywood people, Hollywood higher ups, so that they can get their movies out in time.
There's also a world where, just because movies are the main thing that we look at is release dates are getting pushed back, right? We're looking at Tenet got pushed back. We're looking at 007 got pushed back. A lot of people don't look at the fact that this also paused production. There were companies who planned to have their movie ready by December that were in post-production that just froze and stopped. The movie's not going to be ready by December now. There are little things like that. Big studios, they've got their post-production, and Dune was probably in the can. That's done. It's fine.
Oh yeah.
But little independent guys who are fighting for the Oscars, the ones that we love to talk about.
Oh yeah.
Those are the ones that, we had a December release date, but we didn't have everything done yet. And now, is it a rush to get it done and get it ready to go? Okay, well, you're going to give us till February so we can take some time and actually get it done. Like, it is really helpful, I think. There's a reason that they're doing it, and giving the theater chains a chance to come back and hopefully resurrect this would be nice.
Yeah, it definitely would. So we'll see what goes on from there. Hopefully AMC will have, the Oscars will have more stuff coming out to help give us some more idea of what they're doing. So that will do it for today, guys. That is up for our movie news roundup. What are your thoughts on all the subjects that we had talked about? Leave your comments in the section below. Let us know all of your questions and concerns and what you think of the news. Also, if you like what you watched, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel so you can receive more of our various content in the future. Also, like us on Facebook, Twitter, and Stardust. The links are in the description below, as always. Like I said, guys, I'm gonna be bringing this to you guys every Saturday, so keep a lookout. And that'll do it for today. I'm Josh Williams.
I'm Casey McKinney.
And thank you for keeping it real with ReelTime.